Hello again, the Ancestors Advocate. This is video number 10 in the Ancestor Veneration video course. Uh, wow, I made it to 10 videos. Ah, shoot. Shit. I got a beard in my nail. Look at that. Little beard hair got stuck in my nail. I gotta cut my nails. Okay, so this video is my personal experiences with my ancestors. Should I talk about it? I just hurt myself. I think I should. Yeah, let's go on with it. Uh, my reasoning for speaking about this one a little bit is because personal stories, when they're shared, they help. They can be helpful. You know. Um, last video I was talking about how I don't want to make this a social thing, a trendy thing, right? But I'm going to say this out of the for the sake of understanding, and not because I want someone to seek the exact same experiences that I've had. Of course not. But after everything I've said, right? I think it's fair to let you know a bit about my own journey. So, um, I got onto ancestor work maybe 2 years ago, and I remember what I would do at first was I was very new to all of it, but I felt that this was important, and it felt very new to me. It felt super interesting to me, but something in me was drawn to it. Something in me was drawn to the significance of communicating with ancestral spirits. And it was relieving for me to know also because I came from the last church I was at, because I've been jumping from one church denomination to another throughout all my life until I started my own, real spiritual journey. But the last church I was at was a Seventh-day Adventist church. And they preach or teach that once a person dies, their spirit is asleep. They don't go to heaven or hell or anywhere. It's like they're unconscious, it's like consciousless sleep, kind of. It's just that they're no more. They don't know. Their awareness of time is they are no more. The body goes to the ground. The spirit goes back to the Lord who gave it. That's what they teach. So the person is actually no more until the final day when the Lord comes and JC comes and he raises up first in a twinkling of an eye the spirits of the bodies, or I guess the essence of those that have passed away that were on his side, that were good people, accepted JC as Lord and Savior. He resurrects them up first, and then the living, and he gives them all glorified bodies. So their body comes back, and the spirit from the Lord comes, and basically they are put back together, spirit from God and body from earth, something like that. But keynote that it's a glorified body, so this one can never die apparently. And that's when they returning, and that's when their spirits return. So between death and the return of JC, there is no them at all. There is no presence, or they have no awareness. It's not nothing. They're not put. They're this. What's the word you to use when you take something apart? Whatever. They just taken apart. And that's also one of the reasons why necromancy, communication with the dead, is forbidden in Christianity. Again, from their teachings and from other teachings as well, they have this whole necromancy thing because there's some kind of, I don't know, king who looked to a necromancer, some witch basically, to resurrect or call onto the spirit of a dead person and to ask some questions about this and that. And the Bible teaches that this spirit was not even of that dead person; it was a devil, or at least the Adventist Church teaches that was a false spirit of a devil and that kind of stuff. So, basically, it was denying any spiritual presence of anyone that had passed away, right? So, in my understanding and what I was in the church, it's like anyone who's buried is like completely gone, 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 right? And that's unfortunate because the ancestors are very much alive. You know, I have a video talking about death as simply the friction of life, the marker of life, the indication of where life is moved from one dimension to another. You know, there's only life and more life. Life is life unto itself, and life and death are like, you know, that. But again, death is like just indicates the friction of life, the movement of life. Okay, a deeper understanding there. Anyway, when I came out of the church and had my own spiritual journey, I realized that, hey, so my deceased so and so, they are not in any, you know, ever go on sleep. They have a presence. They exist somewhere, or maybe somewhere very close to me. You know, so I was somewhat relieved to know that there is life beyond death. And even when I had my own spiritual experiences afterwards with, you know, leaving my body and stuff like that, I kind of like, you know, put two and two together, and yeah, things made sense more experientially versus how I was used to just believing stuff. Anyway, so one thing that I did when I started venerating my ancestors, I already talked about building an altar. I had the altar and everything, but the offerings I gave were of milk and honey. You know, I'd have a spoon of honey and a little cup of milk at the altar. And I did this because I figured that because my family is like heavily Christian. Going, I don't know how far back, but religious Christian. So I figured, you know, the symbolism of milk and honey to symbolize, because in the Bible, you know, read about the land of milk and honey, that's like the promised land, you know, for quote unquote God's people. So I gave them this milk and honey as a, you know, an offering. There's a life force essence in these offerings as well as food. And there's also this significant symbolic reason as well. And I'll write down on a piece of paper that, hey, this is a symbol because I want you to, you know, enter into spiritual dimensions where you feel like this is the promised land. You are in a better place, you know, wishing them well because I didn't know their spiritual condition. But I did it the way that the teachers were teaching it, to how to set up the altar, and that you should give offerings. So I did this, and I also wrote down notes, and I would burn the note and the piece of I would burn the note and the candle flame, you know, and I'll let the ashes collect in a little bowl. And the offerings I'd give, if not every night, then maybe every other night, right? I was super consistent with this, and the piece of paper I would burn like just about every night or every other night, but very often. It was like I try to go back to my memory, and it feels like I was doing this every night. Uh, but I did it extremely often, for at least a month or two, and I had a very interesting dream. Before I get into the dream, yeah, let's just go into the dream first, right? I had a very interesting dream. I had this dream about two times where I was in this land, and I felt like Jack and the Beanstalk because I could see my ancestors, but they were like adult men and women, but they were like giants, and I was so small. They were giants, you know. And I don't want to say what else was going on in the dream. I think I'm just gonna leave that part out, right? But they appeared like giants, and I remember, like a year or so later, I was having a conversation with my other friend about ancestors, and she had met a teacher that was teaching her that, you know, ancestors can appear to people as giants as well, in that form at least. So that was a confirmation for me as well, because I had experienced it without any prior indoctrination or being told that this was a possibility. I just knew about it. So there's, you know, a common theme there. And she's someone who was first spiritualized, very open. She can just see ancestors like in the middle of a crowd or something like that. It's crazy with her. she she got that. She got it like that, if you will. And here's why, you know, it's people can perceive ancestors in different ways. Oh, this reminds me. I wanted to talk about how ancestors can communicate back to us. Maybe I'll add that in this video as well. How they can came. Nah, I think I should make another video for that. Yeah, I should make another video for that. Anyway, so one thing that in particular was going on in this dream, the meaning of it was that their spirits were being kind of like. Let me put it this way, because I don't want to say anything much. I don't feel like, honestly. I just feel like this. I've said enough. Uh, but when I was in, let's call it the ancestral realm here with them, I could see the impact of my offerings that I was giving, the impact of my veneration work. And I think after the second or third dream being this place, because the first two dreams, no one didn't speak to me at all. But there was an exchange going on between me and them, but it was nonverbal. In the third dream, one of them came down and said, "Thank you," and they gave me something. They picked something from a tree. It was not a fruit, but they gave it to me. That's as much as I can say. That's as much as I can say. Because the point has come across, this, I'm just telling you this because, uh, especially if someone is very, very, very new to this, and maybe they don't know if their offerings are working or not. If they're making, if this actually leads to any results or outcome on the other side. I would say this. It does if you really do it with integrity and if you're consistent. Not if you just do it once a month and you forget about them. Nah, there's a certain level, especially when you just started. And I may have touched on this before. You have to be consistent. You really have to be consistent and intentional with what you're doing. This is why I also made a video, number 9, saying this is not a trend. You need to apply a certain level of attention, and you know, it's gonna be like a daily or every other day at least, or 3 times a week, something that's very regular. Cause it's like feeding a squirrel in the backyard. If you do it here and there, you still stuff. Sometimes they see it, sometimes they don't. It's hard to bridge that kind of relationship. But once your presence is there often and regularly enough that they can count on you, then you have something strong. So make yourself available in a way that they can count on you. That you can make sure that they can count on. Like for me right now, my ancestors know whenever they come to my altar, whether I'm there or not, for example, there's always going to be an offering. More often than not. I guess even if I got something to say or I don't got something to say, it's going to be like there's going to be an offering at the altar. I ain't going to leave it empty. There's going to be an offering there. And when I drop the offering, I always light the candle. Make sure you change the water at the altar often as well. Don't leave stale, old water. Don't leave no bugs. That's disrespectful. Check the water often. And there's a consistency of offerings, and I bring in new offerings every day, even if it's just something like nuts and cashew nuts. Those things, after you leave it for 2 days out, it starts to taste a little different. Not that, but the vibrancy of its taste goes away. So I pay attention to that. I also like take a little bit every other day. I'm like, yeah, time to change it. It don't taste the same. And you can add some fresh cashew nuts and all that. Some fruits can stay longer, but even those that rotated, and after I take it off the altar, I can just give it as a nature offering, right? Because it's still very much edible. If I don't want to eat it, I give it to a tree, and even the spirits of a tree, right? The vessel of a tree can also be a conduit for ancestors to communicate with you as well. Um, there's a certain power and significance of trees. I don't want to go too deep into that, but yeah, I like to give a double offering where after the ancestors have had it at the altar, because my altar is indoors, right, and then I go out in nature and drop it at the foot of a tree and leave it there. But yeah, just do this work in a way where they know that you are available. And I forgot what this whole video was even about. Oh yeah, this is about my personal stories with my ancestors. So yeah, I've had experiences like that. I've had experiences where they've told me things about me that I needed to check or improve on, especially my mental health, especially when it came to healing and realizing I was more fucked up than I thought I was, and they let me know, hey, you need somebody, you need some, and they may even help position people in your life to help you with some things that you may not even know that you are is an issue for you. They have this, like I said before, this spiritual vision. They can see spiritual dimensions of you that can be more difficult for you to see because your attention is more tied to the physical nature and what the physical eyes can see and what the mind can perceive, which is also based on or somewhat very much restricted to the boundaries of the physical, because the mind can only perceive from the bodily senses and the archive of its own memory, and that's not very far. uh, the spiritual eye can see so much more deeper, so much more profoundly, and so much more sharply, and their assistance there is invaluable. It's priceless. And yeah, I think that's it for my personal experience. I've had others, but that's enough. I think that's a good story. And may you have, may you go about how you do this practice and know these things for yourself. But I don't want to talk too much about that. Again, that will be another video of how, excuse me, of how ancestors communicate back to us. Yeah, I'm glad I got this video out the way. It was like, oh, what am I gonna say in this one? But I'm glad I got it done. I'm glad I got down what I needed to say here, and I'm feeling quite chill right now. I think it's the sun hitting my forehead. It's making me a little, not drowsy, but leaning backish. I feel like leaning back a lot right now. Anyway, thank you for studying this video course. If this is helpful, let me know. And yeah, the more informed you are, the better. Take care.